everyone, and welcome to another episode of Coast Connections, coming to you, as always, from the beautiful Sunemu First Nation here in Nanaimo, BC. We are very pleased to live, work, and play here in this beautiful territory. Today, we're connecting with, well, Morocco. We're going on the ultimate girls' road trip. This is going to be a blast. We're going across the Sahara in a 4x4 truck, competing in one of the most interesting rallies, all for women on earth. And it's actually sanctioned by the King of Morocco, King Mohammed VI. So with no further delay, my Rallye Gazelle guests, I want to welcome Myra Van Otterloo. Hi, Myra.
Hi, how you doing?
And Jessa Arcuri. Welcome,
Hi.
Jessa. Girls, you're back from the desert. You're looking no worse for the wear. You look very healthy.
We've had to recover.
Say that again?
We've had some time to recover.
Oh, yes. Now, Myra, when was the actual rally? That was a little earlier this year.
Yeah, so the rally started on March the 9th, and it went until the 18th of March.
So 9 days. And Jessa, how many kilometers did you cover in that time?
We were close to 2,500 kilometers.
Wow.
Up the desert, yeah.
Now, this rally, not a race, it's a rally, has been going on for the last 30 years or so. It's all women, and there's been about 6,000 women from all over the world, ages 18 to 75, who participated. And I think the only qualification was that you have to be determined. How did you choose to enter the race, Myra?
I found the race in a magazine. I found an article about it in a magazine, and it had a link to the website there, and I looked it up, and I was working in the Middle East at the time, and I decided, heck yeah, I want to try this thing. So that's how I found it, and then I gave Jessa a call and said, "What you doing? You want to come play?"
And you two are lifelong friends, aren't you, Jessa?
We are, yes. And I have to say that my first response when Myra called me was, "Oh, these are things that Myra typically does. And this is one of her crazy ideas, and it'll pass, or, it'll be okay." And I didn't really think that I could do it. But after definitely hearing myself saying, "No, I can't," and then repeating myself to my students saying, "Oh, you can do anything that you set your mind to." I quickly phoned Myra back and said, count me in, I'm in.
I love it. And Jessa, you're a vice principal at a school. Shout out to your school and your students.
Yes, shout out to our Wildcats at Wiltsey, formerly at Skaha Lake Middle School. So shout out to all our Sharks and our Wildcats in Penticton here.
Wonderful. They must be very proud of you.
Yes, they are.
And Myra, you are a helicopter pilot by day. What firm do you work with?
I work for Coastal Aviation on Vancouver Island. Fight fires. Currently in California is where I'm based out of.
Thank you both for your service to our communities. This is remarkable, and that you actually found time to do this crazy rally. And you two are both Vancouver Islanders, born and raised, but I think you're now up in Penticton, Jessa. So, yeah. And Myra, I think you were the first BC women to enter this rally.
We were pretty excited. We were supposed to do the rally back in 2020, and we knew in 2020 that we were the first BC girls. And then after the COVID situation, going back in 2023, I hadn't known if there had been another Canadian team that went from BC, but still we were the first ever BC team.
Congratulations on that. And Jessa, how many teams were there of Canadian women?
8 teams, 8 teams this year, but that ranges every year. But this year we had 8 different Canadian teams that we got to meet and compete with.
How wonderful. Now, how do you prep for a trip like this? I mean, this is all off-roading, and it's not based on speed, is it? It's just using traditional, good old-fashioned navigation, no GPS. So that takes some mad skills. So just for the physical ride, let's meet your truck, Olli. I think you named him, her, it. Shim?
It.
It. Your Toyota truck. And who was your sponsor for that?
So this was a 2015 Toyota Hilux that we rented in Morocco from a company that rents out vehicles specifically for this. All the Canadian teams rented from them. And our main sponsor for our race was Rotormax Support out of Parksville.
Very nice. And how do you did you have practice time before this, or do you have 4x4s at home? How do you prep for this? Because a lot of this is obviously through sand and very, very rough terrain.
I had a truck all my life up until recently. And so I had grown up, and as Jessa has, we've both grown up in the snow. I lived up in northern BC for a long time. So the snow driving, we're both very familiar with, and Jessa has a truck. For this race though, sand was different. We were given a day prior to the race, some training in the sand dunes. All the Canadians were on this course together for one full day.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And were you using sand mats in the sand to get your truck out? Sometimes those steel mats that they put under the wheels, was that part of the special equipment?
Yeah, we did. We had 2 rubber mats and two steel tracks that we used on a continuous basis.
Get the shovels as well.
Yes, our shovels.
Getting stuck and getting unstuck, yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, Jessa, run through a typical day, because, as I say, it's not based on speed. It's based on shortest distance traveled between the checkpoints, and you're all off-road, so you're finding your own way here.
Yeah. So I think when you're also talking about training, it's not only the driving, it's the navigational training. And the one thing is Myra has a lot of navigational training with her job as a pilot. She's out there fighting fires and has to find her way through smoke. So she has a lot of talent and a lot of skill. However, that's not a skill that I use on a regular basis in the classroom. You know, we're using technology, using compasses and maps to find our way through. So we did actually complete a navigational course. We had to complete that before we started the race. So each of us, Myra had a little bit more experience and was able to share that with me. And I know the day before we were doing our training, which happened to be the early March, bit of a panic, but just really making sure that we felt confident knowing the skills. So that was part of the training. But a typical day, you can see from the pictures, is you are working out of your vehicle in every capacity. And you are problem solving from 5 o'clock in the morning until sometimes 10 o'clock at night. But the first thing is you get your coordinates and you have your map. So the maps were from the 1960s, and all you were allowed to use was a compass and just basic tools like pencils and rulers. And working with our compass, we were able to find our coordinates. And sometimes you know where you're going and you have a plan, and then all of a sudden reality hits that, oh, okay, there's something in the way. And so you have to problem solve, and you have to re-measure or get your bearings, get new bearings, and use the tools that you have and the knowledge that you have and the scenery that you have, and you're problem solving, going around things. And then you get to a checkpoint. So each leg would have anywhere from 5 to 9 checkpoints in a day. And they can range in ability. The great thing is from one checkpoint to the next, it was completely different to the next checkpoint. So it was very interesting to go from checkpoint to checkpoint. But you saw that little red flag there. That's when Myra and I would be cheering and excited. But sometimes you ended up in the wrong checkpoint because there were A to F routes and you were destined to possibly go on B route. And sometimes you ended up at the wrong flag. And so that was disappointing. And now you had to go back to your map and your tools and try and figure out where did we go wrong and how to get to the correct map, because you had to do the checkpoints in order. Mm-hmm. So we got a little sticker saying, yay, we've made the checkpoint. and off we went to the next one. And that's pretty much what the day was. You ate and drank water. We made sure that we ate and drank water because you're so busy trying to get to the checkpoint that was really important, especially in desert-like conditions. Drinking a lot of water was really important. And yeah, that's how the days went.
Myra, what was one of the longest days? Like, were you actually starting at 5 a.m.?
Yes, so every morning we were woken up as a group. We all slept in tents every night in the bivouac. And so they woke you up at 5 a.m. and you were on the road by 7:15. And it was a staggered start, just like most races. Every 2 minutes, a truck would be launching. So for us, our days were long, and the longest days were the marathon days. So there was twice that we would leave the bivouac and we'd go and we'd be given 11 checkpoints in the day, and we would have to stay around 5 or 6 somewhere, spend the night out in the desert, and then get up and head out as early as we wanted to. We stayed close to the 7 o'clock start time for ourselves, just because at that time of the year, it was still pretty dark at 7 in the morning. So we didn't want to, it's hard to read a compass in the dark. Mm-hmm. And so we just constantly kept to that routine. And those days were long. All the days were really long. But the marathon days were the longest. You'd be setting up tent and cooking your own food and resupplying all your water and everything. So those were the long days for sure.
And in that Moroccan desert setting, how many hours of daylight do you have that time of year?
The sun would rise at 7:15, and it would set around, I'd say, 8 o'clock every night around that time.
So there were times when you were traveling in the dark quite often?
No, Jess and I were really lucky. Her navigating was fantastic, and our teamwork worked out great. That we were getting in around 7 to 7. I think 7:30 was the latest night we ever had. But we had made a rule that we wouldn't be driving in the dark. It's just too dangerous for the truck and ourselves. We were just putting ourselves in danger then.
Yeah, safety first. And also, as part of the rally, there's a huge support team that is helping you along the way. Is there not, like watching you by satellite, tracking you? Tell us a bit about the support team. I think there's about 400 support team for these 200 teams.
Yeah, the race is set up no different than an F1 series race, where you have a main facility that we eat and sleep in. There's doctors and physiotherapists and medical attention there at all times. And then they have the navigation systems. And each truck is set up with a transponder, and it's able to track it. And the navigation side of the facility setup would keep an eye on you at all times. They also had inside the car an emergency vehicle contact. It's sort of like en route in a truck that you would buy. But basically, if we had a medical situation or a rollover, an accident, we could reach out, hit that button, and they would send help within.
And there was also a huge team of journalists that's followed this and taking video and photos. And a lot of the photos that we're showing today are from the Rallye des Gazelles, and we're using some of their fabulous photos in our production today. And we just want to acknowledge that as well. Hopelessly stuck, Jessa. Tell us about one time you got hopelessly stuck, and how'd you get unstuck?
Well, I think the moment that definitely sticks in my mind as a memory that I think will last forever is it was the second marathon day. So we were on the tail end of the race, and we were going through the dunes. And these were the biggest dunes that we had been through. In fact, only 6 teams actually made it through. So if we didn't make it through these dunes, we knew that we would be going a totally different route, and that would completely take the competition out for us. So there was a little bit of competitiveness there, but it was hot. It was end of the day. It was because the dunes do change as the heat changes throughout the day. The morning's a lot easier to go through the dunes in the sand because it's a little bit more firm. but in the heat of the day, in the late afternoon, it's quite soft and it's easier to get stuck. And so we were going over top of a dune and we just happened to bottom out. And we got out of our truck and we used those sand mats and dug, and it was very, very hot. But I do know that there was a little bit of defeat feeling. You know, you're putting all your energy not into getting to that checkpoint, but really digging yourself out for about an hour. And I know that sometimes it was really draining physically having to go through that. But the one thing is I know, and you can see on the picture, for most of the time, there are people, other gazelles that help each other. And that was really promoted throughout the whole race. The first day we pulled out 3 people, and then we ended up needing to get pulled out. But this one particular day, we happened to be the lone wolves. We didn't realize it, but we were ahead of everybody, but we felt like we were completely lost and behind everybody, just in the wrong direction. But it turns out that we were going the right direction. But when you are hot and it's the end of the race and it's the end of the day, you just got to keep your spirits up and just keep on getting yourself out. And I don't think that either of us had a problem. We never blamed each other for getting stuck. Myra was the driver and I was a navigator. We worked together as a team. If we got stuck, we got stuck together. And if we were going to get out, we were going to get out together. That's what the experience was like. There was easier days and harder days when you got stuck. The camel grass was another very difficult condition to get out of, because the camel grass is quite difficult to dig in. The sand a little bit easier, but hotter, and it's easier to get stuck in the grass, in the sand. So it varied depending on what condition you were in.
Oh, come on. You mean you didn't have a meltdown there? You didn't have a big fight in the middle of the desert there, you two lifelong friends?
That's the common question I get is, you know, are you still friends? And believe it or not, we didn't fight.
Oh.
I think we used humor. We laughed a lot. And I think that's what our friendship has been about. I think that's how we have really grown to love each other as friends and have continued to be friends for so long, as we've used humor. And yeah, there was a day we each had our moments where we were a little bit grumpier, but I think that we both happened to know each other so well that we were able to support and give each other the space that we needed. If somebody was just needing to walk it off, then we let them. We didn't fight at all.
That's fantastic, you guys. I mean, this is just so cool. And part of the values of this race is perseverance and solidarity and support of women. So, I mean, you are living that. You've been living that for your 26-year friendship. Myra, I just want to talk to you a bit about what was the temperature like in the morning and evening, during the day, what were the temperature differences? And what kind of wildlife, if any, did you see on this rally? Besides your partner, Jessa, other wildlife.
The temperature started out in the morning around 5 degrees, 7 degrees. They were quite cool. And as the morning progressed, about 11 o'clock, it would be the time that we would shed our hoodies and start going down into t-shirts. By 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we would be back into tank tops. It was extremely hot by that time. And then by 6 o'clock in the evenings, it was cooling back down. And by 8 o'clock, you're in your hoodies again. So, you know, it's the typical desert where it's cold at night and super hot in the morning or during the day. In the sand dunes, it was a lot. The temperatures definitely increased when you were in the sand dunes. You could just feel the heat radiating off the sand.
And would it be in the late 30s, the 40s? How hot would it get?
I would say that we were mid 30s.
Yeah.
They said that we were quite high in the 40s on one day, but I've lived in the Middle East and I felt it was the highest we ever got, I think, was about 37, honestly.
And wildlife.
Sorry, I was just going to say, as you went south, it definitely got warmer. So as the race went on, we started in the north and ended in the south, and you could feel the temperature difference throughout the day as well.
And Jessa, just on that note, from what town did you start and what town did you end, or city? What was the direction of
Hereford, and ended at, Myra, you're going to have to help me with this one.
I can't remember the final destination. I know that we drove to Ushuaia, but I cannot tell you where the actual finish line was, because the finish line was a GPS coordinate.
Oh, okay. That remote.
I couldn't tell you what town we were close to because by then you were so exhausted, you just wanted to finish the race, that when we hit the road the next day, which was a 9.5-hour drive to the ceremonial shutdown of the race, that was in a town called Ushuaia, and that was on the coast.
Okay. And wildlife sightings, Myra, did you see anything? Any snakes, any foxes, camels?
Yeah, we would run into camels quite often, definitely domestic camels and then wild camels. We had some mules. We were hoping for a gazelle. We never did see a gazelle.
I'm looking at two right now.
Yeah.
But much to Jessa's grief, she found a scorpion one night while we were on a marathon run. So that was quite entertaining from my perspective. So I just sat back and watched Jessa hightail it back into the tent. And that was that.
Good friend. And like collectively, were you eating or sleeping with other teams along the way? And how was this food provided? Did they pack you a lunch every morning and send you on your way? Or how did the race organize the food? And did you get to have a shower at any point?
Yeah, the race is set up extremely well. The logistics on this is fantastic. As I was explaining how the facility is set up like an F1 series, there is a tent that is where the cooks are and all the help are there. So they provide us breakfast and dinner. And they had 90 chefs there cooking for the 400 competitors. And so when you got in the evening, whether you came in at 7 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock, there was always food. They provided us rations for the days so we could be out. And especially on those marathon days, they had provided us both breakfast, lunch, and dinner options. But I had also brought prepackaged food that I know I liked, and we had brought a Jetboil camp stove with us, so we were able to heat up our hot water every day to make our food, and then we were also able to make Jessa her coffees in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And were you given bottled water along the road, or were you using that stove to boil? Well, there's not that many sources of water, is there? They were providing water to you, Jessa?
Yeah, so that was actually one thing they were very strict on, and I appreciated that as a contestant. Never felt like we were short of water. They brought bottled water and actually used the empty water bottles. They were really strict on how to separate the compost and the recycling, and made sure that we were very low on our carbon footprint. And they actually used the water bottles to make the walls of the homes for some of the people. And then they also recycle the water bottles and make furniture out of them. So
Wonderful.
We left at least 6 to 8 liters of water each day. And every day that was one of the stations that you had to go before you crossed the start line, making sure that you had water.
That's good. What a very eco-friendly race. That's one of the things it prides itself on as well, which is really nice. And the categories of vehicles, there was even electric vehicles in this rally as well, wasn't there, Myra? There was various categories.
Yeah, this competition prides itself. It's one of the only competitions that holds the ISO rating for environmentally friendly practices. So as Jessa was explaining, a lot of composting and recycling, but then this was the first time that they had the electric vehicle category. And that was really interesting to see, because they were mostly small cars, and then some dune buggies that were electric also. Mm-hmm. And so they had big semis that were a generator and powered by solar. And so at the end of every night, these electrical vehicles would come up and plug in against the semi. It looked actually like I always said, it looked like a pig nursing the piglets. It was all these cars just lined up, just sucking off the power. So yeah, it was really interesting to see that. And it's odd when one rolls up beside you, especially the dune buggies, because you don't hear them come up, but you hear all the squeaking of the shocks and the metal on metal as they're coming up. It was really weird noise.
That's really cool. Now, ladies, you finished the race, obviously. And how did you place in your category, Jessa?
So out of all the novices, so we were quite pleased with our ranking. We came 7th. And I believe that would be at 142 novice, something like that.
Well done. That's excellent. Oh, we just lost your audio there for a second there, Jessa. Myra, maybe you can take that over in terms of the placement, the 7th. Was there a prize associated with your placement?
So with the novice, there wasn't a prize set up for only in the final categories of first, second, and third was their prizes, and those were just deductions from the cost if you wanted to re-enter the race. However, we placed overall in all the categories. We placed 11th. So out of 7th and 11th overall.
Out of how many? That was
240.
Well done, you. That is fantastic. And we see you wrapped in the flag here.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry.
Very good. And what would you say to anybody, another woman, such as myself perhaps, who might want to join this race? What would be your advice, Jessa? I think we have you back now.
Sorry, it says speaker off. I can't hear.
Oh, okay. We're going to go back to Myra then for that one. Myra,
Okay.
Your best advice to anybody who another woman who would want to do this race, or rally, pardon me.
Yeah, I would encourage any woman who's wanting to do this to definitely get involved. It is a life-changing experience for a lot of women. It's a very freeing experience, and you take it in the competition as much competition as you want. You could just be out there for a good time and not care about what category or what placement you are in. We had age groups we had one woman who had done this 15 times and she was in her early 70s. And then our youngest was about, I believe, 21 this time. But you make this competition what you want it to be. For Jessa and I, it was an opportunity to seek some more adventure in our life, to do something together as a friend, have an adventure as a friend, to just continue that friendship and strengthen it some more. And I'll be honest, I have a little competitive spirit. So definitely it was good for me to have some competition, and Jessa allowed me to indulge in that. But any woman who believes that they can endure some hard days, and it is hard days, whether or not.
We do have to wrap up shortly here, Myra and Jessa. And thank you so much for representing Canada in such a wonderful way. You really did us proud as a nation. And I know we lost your audio there for a little while, Jessa, but at least we didn't lose you in the Moroccan desert. Are you back with us yet? No. Unfortunately, yeah. Bye, Jessa. We've got to wrap up here. Myra, thank you so much. Please tell Jessa we're sorry we had a little technical difficulty there. No. And let us know if you're going to enter again. We'd love to follow your progress. And thank you so much for joining us today. And safe travels in the air with your helicopter and also on any 4x4 that you continue to ride.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you to your team too.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us here on Coast Connections today. And maybe the Gazelle Rally is something that you might want to try out as well. We'll see you next time on Coast Connections. Thanks for joining us.